Hello, this is Linda Comeau, and we are chatting about constellations in our upcoming conference, 2015 North American Systemic Constellation Conference in San Diego. And today I have with me Carl Buchheit, who is going to be presenting on November 13th, 10:45 to 12:15. And an interesting title, listen to this, The Crazy Math of Misguided Love, when your soul's true intention collides with it. Welcome, Carl.
Hi, Linda. Nice to see you. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, my pleasure, believe me. So, I had to warn you that my favorite question is, how do you describe constellations to a stranger at a cocktail party?
If I can avoid describing constellations to a stranger anyplace, anytime, especially a cocktail party, I will usually do that. Other than that, I just have to say something along the lines of they're the weirdest things you're ever going to see in your life, especially if you're really used to operating in the Newtonian world, where causes and effects seem to be sensibly connected. Occasionally for classes, I will say, we can look at human experience from the outside and write about it with some insight and intuition, and quite gifted people have done that for a very long time, describing what's going on and maybe why. And then there's some formats for unpacking a little bit, like the skeleton of the situation. Why are these people in this situation in so much pain? What is it that makes what they're dealing with so hard to release or revise, when it seems like, well, you know, why don't you stop it, be happy? And the constellations, unlike an X-ray, are kind of what let us look at the really invisible, usually invisible soft tissue parts of the situation. Yeah, that there's something in the experience that the people are having now that they haven't been able to change, that they're incredibly stuck with, that's very bad for their morale in their lives, with their families, with the organizations that they're part of. There's a constellation as a format that lets us take a peek at of that unwanted experience, because it's not the source of it, but out of devotion to whom or what is that unwanted pain continuing forward, perhaps across generations, perhaps across marriages, you know? So if I have to describe it, I'll say it's what we do when we haven't been able to get useful information or be able to solve something, to resolve something in a better way yet. We have lots and lots of tools and lots of formats and lots of really lovely modalities. And when none of that works, or when we're just figuring none of that is actually going to produce the understanding we want, and let us get into the sort of micro version of the family or the system hologram. So we've changed this little piece of the hologram, and because the whole hologram all the hologram contains every piece, and every piece contains the whole, we can make these little changes. Anyway, and that's about where they wander off and go back over to the dip table. Yeah.
Good one. Okay. Excellent. So, tell us about your talk.
What I'm going to be talking about, and then time permitting, and I will make time permit actually looking at, has to do with what the heck is the family soul? That's the main question of it. When I first saw Bert Hellinger working in the 1990s, some people in Salt Lake City were nice enough to bring him out. I don't think it was the first time he was in this country, but he did something quite small in Washington, D.C. one time, and then they had him come back. And I was standing there in the circle, and I think I got brought in to represent God. I think that was my first role, which raised my status in the group immensely for about 15 minutes. Just let me tell you that. And then it kind of reset back to normal. what I saw was I saw this obviously really remarkable man. When I talk about Bert Hellinger and I introduce him to students in other places, I say if in English um, we could use the expression Mahatma uh, to describe people, great soul, we would describe Bert Hellinger as a great soul. And that's just obvious. But what I saw him doing was unpacking and explicating and making sense out of the connections in, that I could always feel were there, but with the toolbox, the paradigms I was working with. And so this is the middle 1990s, and I've been working with people since the middle 1970s. I saw this man being able to get to things really quickly, smoothly, beautifully, and elegantly, and then do what he could to make the system a better offer, right? To allow things to revise. As I started to learn to do that and add that into the repertoire of what I was doing and teaching, I started noticing, anyone who does this obviously starts noticing a million things immediately, mostly like how little we know and how relatively insensible we are to what's really going on. But what I saw going on was that the client was in a particular kind of pain, and the family system across the generations, let's say, was manifesting apparently another kind of pain. A while ago, I came across just a Wikipedia page on the mathematical field of topology, the study of shapes and forms, and how these are conserved across generations and across time in mathematics. It has a wonderful graphic on it. Anyone who is going to come to my talk, would you please watch this? Google up Wikipedia topology, and scroll down until you find a graphic whereby a blue porcelain donut graphic morphs into smoothly a blue porcelain coffee cup, and then morphs back to a donut, morphs back to a coffee cup. In that graphic, these mathematicians who are writing this wiki article make the point that in terms of topology, the study of shapes and how they are conserved and preserved across things that would deform them ordinarily. Anyway, the coffee cup and the donut and the coffee cup, they are the same thing. It's not that they just have the same shape, they are the same thing. So occasionally the client is afflicted in their life by blue porcelain donuts, but all we see generationally are blue porcelain coffee cups. Part of being able to work with this stuff is being able to notice this is actually the same thing. Now that comes with anyone who has experience doing it. We just kind of get an intuition after a while. So, but then the main question is, what is the entity? What is the consciousness? What is this thing called the family soul that seems to have its nose stuck into everything and seems to have some kind of stake in correcting the experience of human beings? You know, those who are cast out, denied, excluded, all of that usual stuff. What is this family soul? Why is it working with shapes in this way? What's its big point? And it seems to have the impression that it is caring for those over which it has charge, which kind of varies, who is in the family soul, who's not. But why does it seem to do such an extraordinarily bad job? Right? I mean, extraordinarily bad job. I know these three people had a terrible fate over here, so why doesn't the shape of the system just create an experience whereby this person over here, 100 years later, has an equally terrible fate, albeit it might not be a coffee cup because those aren't available anymore. It might be more in the donut form. Right? Very few people can break their neck jumping their horse over a fence these days. You can ride your motorcycle into a concrete abutment. So about the third constellation I watched Hellinger do, I wanted to take the family soul out and like buy it a drink and ask it, what is your main issue here? All right. Now we can, when we work with this, we can observe the operation of love underneath all of this. The family soul gets really good grades for being caring and attentive and, oh my God, really scrupulous about stuff. But most of what it does seems to create pain rather than resolve it, right? So what happens when an individual soul with their own particular objectives for an incarnation floats on in and identifies itself, attaches itself onto a family soul, and then forever ever after and forever ever before, yeah, because there's no time there, the incomplete suffering of that family is the baseline of that soul's new experience, at least in a narrow focus called an incarnation. So what I want to do mainly in the talk is anybody who works with individual experience and family experience, anyone who's doing something other than purely options work or purely should we hire more people for the sales department or the R&D department, anyone who's working beyond those kinds of boundaries, in my experience, really needs to hear the description of what human suffering is all about, what the soul is serving, and how we can actually work with it so that it can fulfill its function a little better without human beings have a knack for feeling better when they can make things worse. This is, and for feeling worse if things start to get better. It really messes up our navigation system. Life starts to unfold really delightfully, and we get this creepy guilt for not sharing in the calamity that we've gotten ourselves entangled with. There has to be a better way to do that. There has to be a better way to spot that the donut and the coffee cup, and do watch that on the Wikipedia topology page, please, are the same thing. And there has to be a better way to respect the intention. And I don't know what kind of word to put before the word intention. It's not a divine intention, but it does seem to be a universal intention behind every little bit of pain that a human experiences, especially just the really god-awful stuff. There is a loving intention, obviously, behind every bit of that. What I want to present to people is an entirely new way of sorting that out, of labeling it in a really simple way. I'm doing my very best not to just blurt it all out right now, and so everyone can sit there and think to themselves, OMG, yeah. And if then after a few minutes, if they are of such a mind, they can think to themselves, WTF, yeah, which we do in constellations all the time. And then they can come to the third part, which is okay, yeah. And then to the fourth part, and now what would we like? So imagine that about half of what I'll be doing will be talking about this stuff, and the other half will be saying, hey, let's put the chairs in a circle and let's find out what we can find out here. Because I never have ever constellated this. My desire to take the family soul out to lunch is now, the invitation is 20 years overdue. I'd like to go have a chat with it.
Cool. This is going to be great. The chairs are already going to be set up in a circle, by the way.
Great.
Okay. Well, I also know of two things about you. Also, you mentioned you have a great definition of suffering, was it, or trauma?
Suffering. Suffering with a large uppercase S. When this is the thing that completely transformed my sense of stuff about 40 years ago. Yeah. Such that I spend a great deal of time trying to get other modalities and other tools and other ways, other forms of inquiry to answer the question. And then what I didn't quite say clearly was I watched Hellinger do it. Like in the first 5 seconds, I watched him doing this, and so like I said, oh my God, this guy is actually able to do what I've been trying to find a way to. This is beautiful and brilliant and really important. Yeah.
And I understand you have a book coming out in the spring.
I do. I'm co-writing it with Jade Barclay from Australia and The title is as variable as the tides right now, so I'm not even going to try to say the title. It's probably not going to be 7 Secrets to Total World Domination. We've ruled that one out, but there are lots of other ones that might be available.
Okay, well, we'll just watch for it, of course.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, I want to thank you very much for your time today. So, Carl's workshop, The Crazy Math of Misguided Love, will be on Friday morning, November 13th. And I look forward to meeting you at the conference, Carl.
And thank you, Linda, so much.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.